All right, I'm going to do a little voiceover here because there was too much yammering on, so I'm trying to clean it up here. So if you've seen the previous videos, I had this thing tore down, trying to fix a coolant leak, but I did a bunch of maintenance stuff while I was in there, tune up and whatnot, like new spark plug wires, replace valve cover gaskets and whatnot. Just check out the past videos if you want to see all that was done to it, because there was more than that. But the main goal was to fix the coolant leak and to just take care of other things while I was in there. I was having a coolant leak from where the water pump inlet pipe connects to the water pump. And while I had the whole top end of the engine off there doing all the other stuff, I, of course, went ahead and replaced that O-ring where they connect. And it should have been a lot easier with all that stuff off because you can actually see the water pump housing. And so you can actually line it up and stick it in there and whatnot. Whereas there's an easy method, which I'm doing in this video, where you can just pop it out the side here by the battery over top of the transmission. It's a lot easier in the fact that it only takes, an hour or less to get it out. But the part that sucks about it is when you go to put it back in, you're doing so blindly compared to having the whole intake and everything off where you can actually see what you're doing. So you have an elevated risk of pinching the O-ring gasket, trying to shove it in there blindly, line it up and everything by feel. So a lot of people, they do it the easy way and they end up having to repeat it because they end up pinching the gasket. One way to help combat that is to lubricate it, like maybe with petroleum jelly or something like that, something that won't contaminate the coolant system. But even at that, again, it's a heightened risk to pinch the gasket because you're shoving the thing back in there blindly. Now, I replaced that O-ring gasket while I had it all apart, but the reason I'm doing it again is because it is still puking coolant from there. So I was contemplating maybe I got the wrong O-ring, maybe it wasn't quite the exact size I needed, but it was. Maybe I pinched it, even though I had full access to it and could see and everything. Maybe there's gunk built up inside the pump housing, so maybe that's why it's not sealing. Maybe the water pump weep hole is causing the leak. I don't see how it would shoot in between the heads, but I guess it's possible because now that I have the new water pump, I see that the weep hole is on the back side of the water pump where it faces towards the heads. I won't know until I tear into this thing further if it's actually coming from that. I have a hunch that it is, though. So in this video, that was my intent, was to replace that O-ring once again, but I was doing it the easy way this time, and I was showing how to do that, but I ended up pulling it out. You'll see it here in a second, and I see nothing wrong with the O-ring. So that tells me either I need to replace the water pump or, the housing's gunked up or something like that. So I'm not tearing this all back down again to try to clean out the housing again or anything like that. So I'm just replacing the entire water pump, which will be in the next video. But this one is just going to show you the process to get that water pipe out the easy way to replace that O-ring. So pretty straightforward. I need to get the battery disconnected here, get the battery out of the way, take this air box out, get everything unplugged for that, and get it out of the way. So I'll do that now. Then with that stuff out of the way, got a lot more room to work here. So you're going to need to remove this thermostat housing. It's this big piece that runs from here clear back, kind of back behind the distributor here. So you just have to disconnect everything, all your connections there. Obviously take the pipe off there, disconnect the pipe from the thermostat housing there. This will come out as one unit, 2 mounting bolts on each side. So you got to pop these wires and distributor cap, and I think pull the distributor out here to get to the 2 mounting bolts for this side of it back in here. Obviously keep track of the order of your spark plug wires. Then with everything disconnected, you got the 3 coolant hose. I forgot that one. I gotta take that one off. 1, 2. Get this little guy on top here. Cap rotors off the side. Rotor just pops off. Good time to do that O-ring seal on your distributor. I've already replaced mine when I had this tore down previously. So now everything's out of the way, and get to the mounting bolts. Like I said, there's 1 on each side. So you got your 2 there, 2 down in there, and then this thing will pop off. Alright, there's with that thing out of there. I forgot to mention on this side, you do that, there's 2 metal lines that go into the side. These lines right here, you got the little O-rings on the end that pop into it. Good time to replace those 2 if they're original. You can unbolt it from here so they'll wiggle and get out of your way. The bolt on this one side was shorter than the other 3 bolts. So now with this thing out of the way,
does take a little rocking and twisting to get it out, because you're sitting on that O-ring there for that water pipe that runs to the water pump housing on the other side of the engine. So you just got this one bolt to take out here, and then same thing, just get a good hold on this and wiggle up and down, left and right, and pop her out of there.
So here I was showing and discussing this water pipe and how I checked it for leaks and whatnot, because I've heard of them cracking and getting little pinholes in them. So I filled it up with water, capped it off on both ends with my hands real tight, shook it around all directions, didn't have any leaks. But anyways, as you can see there, the O-ring gasket looks fine. Like I said, they're new because I replaced them when I previously had it torn down. Yet I still have the leak. So I was showing that, going over, you know, maybe there's gunk in the water pump housing and whatnot. So that's why I just decided to cave, and I just bought not only a whole new water pump, but the water pump with the housing, because I'm tired of messing with this thing. So the next video I will be replacing the water pump, which requires taking off the timing cover and belt and all that good crap over there, which I just did in one of the previous videos, because car skipped time on me and I had to fix that. So now I get to tear it all back down again, because I'm going to replace the freaking entire water pump and housing now. This isn't really a how-to video, just kind of take you along for the journey, but if you were using this as a how-to, obviously installation is reversive removal, and your torque spec on that housing, those bolts there, 2 on each side, 14 foot-pounds of torque. Some people put like silicone gasket maker or whatever around those. I had paper gaskets and they sealed just fine, didn't leak or anything, as long as you torque it properly. So just like I said earlier, when you go to put this thing back in, you want to have this nice and lubricated, you know, plenty of coolant at a minimum on it. Mine was not pinched, but like I said, I did it with all this crap off, so it was real easy to shove it in there and whatnot. But doing it this way, the easy way, where you don't have to spend hours tearing all this down, it's going to be a little more difficult to line up and get it pushed in there and whatnot. So give it a good lube, you know, like a light coating of petroleum jelly or something like that would work there and would not contaminate, I don't think, the coolant system there. But then that's the other issue, which the issue I think I'm having now, that if that has all kinds of crap built up on it, you can put on a new O-ring like I did and reinsert it and still potentially end up with a leak, because there's all kinds of crap in there, and then obviously you're not able to clean that up without tearing all this apart or taking your timing belt cover off and doing basically the whole timing belt crap to be able to pull your water pump and water pump housing out of that side. So with this method, you will potentially run into that. I've heard a lot of people, you know, pinching and tearing those gaskets trying to get it in through this easy way and then having to do it over again. But then, like I said, you could have that issue too, where there's gunk and crap in there. And with that said, I did get in there and clean out what I could, but that's the only thing I think is there's still some crap in there. So at this point, I'm done messing around with this thing just puking coolant everywhere. So I am going to replace the water pump and water pump housing all as one unit from the side, leave all this together again. I take timing cover off and all that crap, like I said. And so I'm just going to replace the whole freaking unit, the pump and the housing. It'll come with new gaskets. It'll come with another new O-ring. I'll use the one that comes with it. I'll just replace the whole thing. That way I know there's nothing left, and finally get this thing to stop puking coolant everywhere so I can drive the damn thing. So that'll do it for this one. I'll catch you again when I'm doing the water pump.